Yo guys, what's going on? I'm Keegan. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to hit that subscribe button and put your opinions down there in the comment section. Rich Brian, the Sailor. Rich Brian is an Indonesian rapper, singer, and songwriter, and one of the head members of the 88 Rising label. It has only been 2 years since Rich Brian released his debut single, Dat Stick, under the Rich Chiga alias, despite it feeling like it really should have been a lot longer ago. He's been keeping fairly busy since then, releasing his debut album in 2018, Amen, and all along with playing a huge part in forming his label's first album, Head in the Clouds. Before this album was released, he dropped 2 singles, the first one being Yellow, which is this huge stylistic change in comparison to his latest album. Brian is flexing his singing voice a lot over this wonderfully elegant and grand instrumental, which I didn't expect to be as on-key as it is. The incredible tone change halfway through the song where Brian starts his verse almost sounds like the beat is changing even though it really isn't. The second single was Kids, which is supported by these orchestral trumpets and strings. Brian's lyrical ability also shines a lot on this song, as if we're listening to a diary verse transcribed into verses, where we're hearing about his successes but also his struggles at the same time. It's almost like this whole traditional "Look Ma, I made it" verse, and throws out this message of everyone can make it no matter where you're from. It's definitely a powerful cut on the album. The way these 2 teaser songs made me see how Brian has evolved as an artist and as a songwriter, I was reasonably excited for this new album. I was hoping that Brian would continue on this path. And immediately my thoughts are presumably correct on the very first track and the title track, The Sailor, which on the surface is a traditional brag anthem, but deeper you can see a few extra ideas, such as one of my favorite lines, "Snakes coming in the form of your best friend." This beat and flow almost remind me of some Wu-Tang, which is funny considering a song later on in the track list that we'll get to in a bit. The outro, however, reminds me of the opener to Kendrick's album Damn, although I personally would have preferred it at the beginning of the song with how well I think it could transition into the rest of the song. That's just a personal nitpick, but nonetheless it's a very fitting opener. The next song is Up Abba, featuring RZA of Wu-Tang fame. Brian takes control a lot over this song, and to his credit he's got a fantastic flow over such a bubbly beat, and he's almost breaking out into his singing voice on the chorus. The lyrical comparisons here could have been better. One that really stuck with me for all the wrong reasons was "Stuck on her nipple like bon appetit." We may need to go back to the drawing board on that one. RZA pops in randomly on the last minute, changing the beat up entirely, almost sounding like he's promoting Brian and the 88 Rising label, which is fine overall, but you're not even going to include him on the actual song. It just kind of feels like a little bit of disrespect. If he did what he did on the outro, on the actual song itself, this may have been one of my favorite tracks. Drive Safe is this ballad-esque rap song, and the chorus is absolutely gorgeous, and very well sung. I just wish we got a little bit more emotion out of Brian's delivery when it comes to the verses, because his delivery is usually pretty stone cold and monotone. Lyrically, the song is actually pretty somber, where Brian is mentioning how bumpy he can see his life being up ahead and how slow everything's going now. This is definitely one of my favorite songs, although I really wish we got a final chorus when the strings soar on the final minute of the song. Now, Confetti was the first song I was fairly mixed on. The chorus got pretty annoying really quickly with his more higher-pitched singing. Also, the line "blow me like confetti" really makes no sense because I always picture confetti being like thrown or at the very least like popped. The instrumental also gets fairly annoying on the chorus as well, with his heavy distorted bass combined with his previously mentioned vocals. Really doesn't make a good combination in my opinion. However, I do enjoy the verses. Brian adds a nice amount of hype with the several varied flows, but that alone is not enough to keep me coming back to this song. Vacant is this short but fairly sweet emotional song about how a flawed relationship, where one person is feeling flawed and the other person is just overwhelmed with doubt. I love this digital synth melody in the background, setting a wonderfully intense tone to this song. Brian's heavenly voice really shines on the hook, and his flow on both verses is very smooth, very bubbly, and actually pretty varied. This one is another personal favorite of mine, and it also shows off Brian's songwriting ability pretty well. No Worries opens up with this choir-sounding hook, and this beautiful piano that almost sounds like I'm listening to someone playing at a wedding. The first verse continues this lovely beat with Brian rapping about how he's trying to distract himself from this girl who previously gave him pain. It's actually rather soothing, but then the second verse hits me like a ton of bricks with this ripping, grimy, thumping bass about the exact same topic. It's a nice change up from the first part of the song, and almost feels like this is the anxious part of his mind of the song, like the previous part was just him like normally and relaxed. I was also fairly mixed on the next song, 100 Degrees. In my opinion, it's way too sugary and summery for an album as lyrically set and confessional as this album has been up to this point. It clashes with the whole style of this album and feels extremely out of place. That's not saying the song is bad by itself. Brian's got a fantastically sung hook on here. It's fairly playful, but the song is just way too radio-friendly when compared to the rest of this album to take it seriously. Slow Down Turbo is very unsure as to what it wants to be. It transitions a whole 6 times in its 4-minute runtime. It really has no clue as to what its direct concept is supposed to be. Despite the messy mashup, I do enjoy certain individual parts of this song, especially the part where Brian is rapping at a very consistent pace, and the audio starts to speed up, and he speeds up as well to match the rest of the song. I just really can't see myself coming back to this song because of its inconsistency. I'm pretty sure I saw someone mentioning about how this envelops the whole idea of the sailor, like how he stays in one place but he's not too there for long, which is a fine concept potentially for an album's length. But for one song at 4 minutes, it just feels like Brian had all these verses and melodies and decided to just chuck them all into one track. Curious changes things up a bit with Brian rapping over a soft folk-like acoustic guitar. These two styles never really connected with me, but I can confidently say that Brian's colder monotone delivery is way better than, say, Ed Sheeran's. While the melody doesn't change, which I kinda wish it did, I do enjoy Brian's lyrical content, where he talks about reflecting on his growth and his family back home and how he wishes he could see them more often despite it being a 20-hour flight. It's heartfelt, it's introspective, and I really enjoy it. The final song, Where Does the Time Go, features 88 Rising labelmate Joji, also known as Pink Guy and Filthy Frank on YouTube. The song features an extremely laid-back and almost melancholic instrumental produced by Vacant, the same guy featured on the previous single Yellow, and Joji absolutely kills this chorus. And Brian's refrain is one of the best parts of the song, along with his second verse, which are sang beautifully. A fairly satisfying closer to this album, and one of the most beautiful songs on it. Overall, I'm very impressed by this sophomore Rich Brian album. It's amazing to see how far he's come and how much he's changed stylistically since he first started 2 years ago. And I'm fairly excited to see how much more development Brian's music undergoes in the upcoming years. I'm thinking about a 7.5 out of 10 on this album. Well guys, hope you enjoyed the review. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.